The Alien Council, certain of their impending victory, hands humanity outdated ships, thinking they are nothing more than relics of a bygone era. But those ships, underestimated and neglected, rise to become the ultimate weapon against the aliens. The galaxy watches as humanity turns the tables with sheer ingenuity and willpower. The Alien Council chamber was filled with a hum of anticipation. Cyros, the supreme leader, stood before his fellow council members, his eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of impending victory. The humans had been nothing but an inconvenience, primitive and outdated, easily crushed under the might of the Council's vast empire. They still think they're a threat. Cyros chuckled, his voice rich with mockery. These humans, with their old ships, their outdated weapons, they truly believe they stand a chance. We'll give them a battle, of course, but in the end, we'll wipe them out, just like all the others. Zarek, the lead strategist, leaned forward, his clawed fingers tapping on the console. I agree, Cyros. We've captured their most advanced ship. They'll have no choice but to surrender when they see what we can do with their own technology. They think they're worth more than they are, Cyros sneered. We'll break them. We'll show them their place in the universe. On Earth, Commander Alara stood at the helm of the human warship, watching the final moments of the Alien Council's announcement unfold on the screen. The message was clear. Earth was next. The alien empire, vast and powerful, had sent their fleets to wipe out humanity, and they had given them outdated ships to seal their fate. They think they've won, Alara muttered under her breath, her eyes narrowing as she looked out at the dark expanse of space. They think they've given us nothing but scraps. Beside her, Lieutenant Harper shifted uneasily. These ships. They're relics. They're old. How are we supposed to fight back with this? Alara's lips curled into a small smile, her eyes glinting with a dangerous resolve. That's exactly what they're counting on. They don't understand us. They think we're just survivors. But that's the mistake they'll regret. The alien fleet approached Earth at breakneck speed, their ships cutting through the darkness of space with unyielding power. The Council, seated comfortably in their command center, watched with smug confidence as their massive fleet prepared for the final assault. They think these ships will slow us down, Cyros said, his voice thick with derision. Once they see what we've taken from them, they'll fall to their knees. Zarek glanced at the screen, studying the human ships rusted, outdated, and poorly constructed compared to the sleek alien armada. They're nothing, a bunch of old scrap. We'll crush them under the weight of our firepower. The alien fleet fired the first volley, unleashing their advanced weaponry onto Earth's defenses. The human ships, moving in tight formation, absorbed the attack, their systems flickering but holding steady. Ready our countermeasures, Alara ordered calmly. We'll show them what old means. As the human ships unleashed their own return fire, a surge of energy spread through the fleet, causing their old engines to flare to life. The missiles they fired had a crude, almost haphazard design, but they hit their targets with unrelenting accuracy. Each strike caused a massive alien ship to shudder and then explode in a flash of bright white light. What's happening? Zarek demanded, his voice rising with panic. How are they doing this? These ships shouldn't even be functional. Cyros watched in disbelief as one by one the alien ships fell before the humans' barrage. Impossible, he whispered. Their ships are ancient. They can't, but they could. Earth's outdated technology, stripped of its superficial flaws, had been re-engineered with one thing in mind: survival. The humans had taken what they were given scraps and turned them into weapons of unimaginable power. The alien fleet's overconfidence had been their undoing. We've been wrong, Cyros said, his voice cold with realization. This isn't about technology. It's about something more. We've underestimated them. Back in the human command center, Alara watched as the alien fleet began to retreat, their once imposing vessels limping back into the darkness. The tide had turned. Earth's fleet had fought with everything they had, and the alien invaders were now scattered, fleeing from a battle they had expected to win without breaking a sweat. Harper stood beside her, eyes wide with shock. We did it. We actually did it. They didn't expect us to fight like this. They thought we were nothing more than bugs to crush. Alara nodded slowly, her gaze never leaving the retreating alien ships. They gave us outdated ships, expecting us to fail, and now they're running from us. This is only the beginning. The alien fleet, now broken and scattered, had retreated to the edges of the galaxy, nursing their wounds and recalculating their next move. Cyro stood in his war room, the damage of their defeat settling in. Prepare to regroup, Cyros ordered. We will return. Earth may have beaten us today, but this war is far from over. We will return, and when we do, we'll be ready. They may have their old ships, but we have power. And that power will be enough. On Earth, Alara stood tall, her eyes fixed on the stars as the remnants of the alien fleet disappeared into the dark expanse. The humans had won. The ships they had been given, outdated and seemingly useless, had become their greatest weapon. Will be ready for them when they return, Alara said quietly, a grim smile tugging at her lips. And this time, they won't stand a chance. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. The silence in the command center was deafening, save for the quiet hum of the alien ship's engines. Cyro stood at the center of it, surrounded by his war council, but his focus was elsewhere. His mind raced, trying to comprehend the scope of what had just occurred. The alien fleet, vast, powerful, and confident, had been struck down by something that should have been no more than a curiosity. The humans, with their outdated ships, their primitive weapons, had not just defended themselves, they had crushed the might of the alien empire. The ships that had been dismissed as nothing more than outdated relics had become the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. Earth, the planet they had once considered inconsequential, had now forced Cyros to confront a truth he had never thought possible. We've been bested. Zarek's voice cracked, breaking the heavy silence in the room. The battle had been swift, merciless, and utterly unexpected. How could this happen? We gave them ships we thought were useless. Cyros's jaw clenched. He had led them into this disaster. The humans had proven that they were more than their ships. They had outsmarted the alien fleet at every turn, adapting, overcoming, and then destroying. Cyros could feel the weight of their defeat pressing on him, but his pride was a bitter flame, refusing to let him accept the truth. We underestimated them, Cyros said, his voice quiet but full of venom. Their ships shouldn't have been able to withstand our weapons. We thought we could crush them in a matter of hours. But they've shown us that they are more than we ever imagined. Zarek shot him a sharp glance. We've underestimated them, yes. But how? They had no fleet, no real defense. We thought their technology was ... primitive. They gave us old ships, Cyros muttered, the realization dawning on him. They knew what we would think. They knew we would assume. They were weak. And in doing so, they allowed us to play right into their hands. They weren't outmatched. They were prepared. Cyros turned toward the large holographic display at the front of the command center. It showed the remnants of the alien fleet scattered and broken, retreating into deep space. The humans had not just fought back, they had won. And now the alien empire was left with nothing but a handful of damaged ships, their once imposing strength shattered. We were too sure of ourselves, Cyros continued, his voice heavy. Too confident that we could crush Earth with a simple strike. And now they've turned the tables on us. They've shown us that we don't control the galaxy. They do. On Earth, Commander Alara stood at the helm of her flagship, watching the distant remnants of the alien fleet disappear into the blackness of space. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Alara knew that their victory, while decisive, had been just one step in a much larger conflict. The humans had proven their strength, but they had also made themselves a target. "We've done it," Lieutenant Harper said, his voice filled with awe. "We've actually won. The alien fleet is retreating. We did it." Alara didn't respond immediately. She didn't feel triumphant. The victory had come at a cost. Thousands of lives had been lost, and the road ahead was uncertain. She could already feel the weight of the responsibility pressing on her shoulders. "They thought we were nothing," Alara said softly, her voice full of quiet determination. "They thought we were weak, that we didn't stand a chance. But we've shown them what Earth is capable of. And now they'll never forget." Harper watched her, sensing the change in her demeanor. "What now, Commander? Do we go after them? Do we finish what we started?" Alara shook her head, her eyes never leaving the stars. "We won't chase them down. We've proven our strength, but this isn't about revenge. It's about showing the galaxy that Earth is not to be trifled with. We've made our mark, but now we need to rebuild." "Rebuild?" Harper echoed, his voice thick with doubt. "How do we rebuild from this? The alien empire is gone. We've made them retreat. What's left for us?" Alara turned to him, her gaze cold but focused. "We've shown them that we can fight. But now we need to show them that we can survive. We have to be prepared for what comes next. The galaxy won't forget this. They won't forgive us. They'll come for us." The alien fleet, broken and scattered, had retreated to the edges of the galaxy, leaving Cyros and his commanders to regroup. The failure was complete. Their ships, once sleek and powerful, now sat idly in space, their once mighty engines silent. The humans had struck the capital, and in doing so, had claimed their place as a new power in the galaxy. Zarek stood at Cyros's side, his voice barely above a whisper. "What now, Commander? The humans have defeated us. We can't return to the Council with our heads held high. They'll see this as our downfall." Cyros turned toward the view screen, his eyes narrowed with cold determination. "We regroup. We rebuild. Earth has shown us that they're capable of far more than we ever imagined. And we'll learn from this. We won't make the same mistakes again." "Rebuild?" Zarek scoffed, his voice tinged with disbelief. "We can't rebuild. We've lost everything." Cyros's eyes glinted with a sharp, dangerous light. "We rebuild from the ashes. We adapt. We survive. And when the humans think they've won, we'll show them what real power looks like." Back on Earth, Commander Alara stood before the console, watching the alien fleet disappear into the distance. Their victory had been earned, but the real work was just beginning. The humans had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with, but there was no time to rest. The galaxy was watching, and Alara knew that the next battle would be even harder than the last. "We've shown them what we're capable of," Alara said, her voice full of quiet resolve. "But now we have to show them that we won't back down. Not now, not ever. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't." The alien fleet, scattered and broken, drifted further into the vastness of space, the remnants of what had once been a mighty armada. The once imposing ships that had struck fear into countless species were now reduced to pieces of metal, limping away in defeat. Cyros, the commander, stood alone in his command room, watching the last transmission from his fleet flicker out. His eyes burned with anger, but it was not just fury. It was the realization that Earth had not just survived. They had completely dismantled the alien empire's plan with one simple strike. his fingers clenched around the console as his mind replayed the disastrous battle. The humans, with their outdated ships, had outclassed the alien fleet at every turn. They hadn't just fought back, they had taken the fight to the heart of the Empire, destroying their capital and making Cyros feel the sting of complete and utter defeat. Zarak, his battle strategist, stood silently beside him. "We've lost everything, Cyros. Their ships, those relics, are far more powerful than we ever imagined." Cyros stared at the now empty display of Earth's atmosphere. It was supposed to be an easy conquest. Earth was supposed to be a mere stepping stone in the Council's dominance. And yet, here they were fleeing, broken and humiliated. They had underestimated the humans at every turn. "We gave them old ships," Cyros said, his voice low and tense, "and they turned them into weapons." Zarak glanced at him, his eyes filled with disbelief. "But we saw them as weak. Their ships were a mockery of ours. How could they have managed to—" He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Cyros clenched his jaw. "Because they're not weak. They're survivors. And now they're more dangerous than we could ever imagine." Back on Earth, Commander Alara stood in the heart of the human flagship, watching the retreating remnants of the alien fleet through the viewports. Her heart was still pounding in her chest, but the adrenaline was fading. The battle was over, but a sense of unease lingered in the back of her mind. The victory had been decisive, yes, but it had come at a cost. Thousands of lives had been lost. The destruction was unimaginable. And now they had to prepare for the consequences. "They're running," Lieutenant Harper said, his voice full of awe. "We actually did it. We made them retreat. Earth has won." Alara didn't respond right away. She couldn't. The weight of the victory was heavy, but it was also incomplete. The alien fleet was fleeing, but they wouldn't stop. They wouldn't simply forget what had happened. And Alara knew that they would be back sooner or later. "They've shown us mercy," she said quietly, her gaze still fixed on the distant stars. "But that's not enough. Earth has to show them that we'll never back down, that this wasn't just a one-time fluke. We have to be ready for the next step." Harper looked at her, his face filled with uncertainty. "You think they'll come for us again?" "I don't just think it," Alara replied, turning to face him. "I know it. They've been defeated once. But they're not going to forget this. The rest of the galaxy won't forget. And we'll need to be prepared for whatever comes next." In the depths of space, the remnants of the alien fleet regrouped, their broken ships drifting aimlessly. Cyros's gaze was fixed on the screens, the damage reports coming in one after another. The humans had done more than just retaliate. They had completely turned the tide. Their outdated ships, once seen as nothing more than relics, had become the weapon that shattered the alien fleet. "We need to regroup," Zarak said, his voice shaky with the remnants of fear. "We've lost the battle, but we can still fight the war." Cyros didn't respond at first. He knew that the battle was not the real defeat. The true cost was something far greater. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had taken something as insignificant as an old human warship and used it against them with brutal efficiency. They had adapted. They had used the aliens' own arrogance as their weapon. Cyros turned slowly, his eyes steely. "We will regroup. We will rebuild. But Earth has sent us a message. They are not to be underestimated, and we will not forget that. We will return." Zarak hesitated, his voice full of doubt. "How do we face them now? They've proven they can destroy us." Cyros clenched his fists. "We've underestimated them for too long. That ends now. We'll rebuild. We'll make them regret ever thinking they could take us down." On Earth, Commander Alara turned to the rest of her officers. The battle had been won, but there was no time for celebration. Not yet. Not while they were still vulnerable. She could feel the weight of the responsibility pressing down on her. They had done the impossible, but the galaxy wasn't done with them. Not by a long shot. Victory is just the beginning, Alara said, her voice strong but carrying the weight of experience. We've shown Earth's strength, but the galaxy will come for us now. We've made ourselves a target. The question is, will we survive the consequences of this victory? Harper looked at her, his expression serious. We'll survive, Alara. We have to. Alara looked out at the stars, her thoughts heavy. We'll fight, but we have to be ready. They'll come back, and this time we won't just defend ourselves. We'll make them understand why Earth is no longer a planet to be conquered. Back in the alien fleet, Cyros was already preparing for their return. The defeat was fresh, but the will to survive was stronger than ever. The humans had shown their strength, but Cyros knew something they didn't. The alien empire wasn't gone. It wasn't finished. And when they returned, they would come with everything they had. Earth would not remain standing. We've lost for now, Cyros muttered under his breath. But Earth will learn. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. The alien fleet limped through space, broken and bruised. Their once pristine ships now scarred from humanity's unexpected and overwhelming attack. Cyros, standing in the command center of his ship, clenched his fists, trying to suppress the surge of anger coursing through him. He had led his fleet into battle, thinking it would be another easy conquest, but the humans had shattered his expectations. How? Zarek whispered from behind him, unable to fully grasp the scale of their defeat. How did they turn those outdated ships into weapons strong enough to destroy us? Cyros turned toward him, his gaze cold. Because they have something we don't, he said quietly. They have something far greater than technology. They have determination, a will to survive. The truth burned in Cyros's chest. The humans had used their old, seemingly insignificant ships to tear apart his armada. They had fought with an intensity he had never seen before. And the more he thought about it, the more he realized that this defeat wasn't just about the loss of ships or technology. It was about their arrogance, their belief that they were invincible. The Council had assumed that Earth was just another weak world to be subjugated, but they were wrong. And now the consequences were clear. They will come for us again. Zarek said, his voice trembling. We've shown them what we're capable of, but now they've shown us what they're capable of. Cyros's mind raced. The humans had proven themselves a far more formidable adversary than they'd ever imagined. The loss of the capital was devastating, yes, but it wasn't the end. Not for him. Not for the Empire. The Council had underestimated Earth, but they wouldn't make the same mistake again. We regroup, Cyros said, his voice hardening. We rebuild. The galaxy will still kneel before us. And when we return, Earth will wish they had never provoked us. Back on Earth, Commander Alara stood in the command center, staring out into the vastness of space. The destruction of the alien capital had been a decisive victory, but the cost was high. Thousands of human lives had been lost in the battle, and though Earth's fleet had emerged victorious, the price of that victory weighed heavily on her. The transmission from the alien fleet's retreat had been brief, a final acknowledgement of defeat, but the humans weren't naive enough to think this was over. Alara knew that the alien empire would regroup. They would return. They'll come again, Lieutenant Harper said, his voice quiet but certain. They won't just. Let us go after this. Alara nodded, her eyes still fixed on the stars. Yes, the galaxy has seen what humanity is capable of now. And Earth is no longer a target to be crushed. We're a force to be reckoned with, but we can't let our guard down. Are we ready for what comes next? Harper asked, the uncertainty. In his voice clear, Alara turned to him, her gaze hard. We will be. We've shown them our strength, but now we have to prepare for their retaliation. The galaxy won't forgive this. The Empire won't forget this. She stepped toward the console, her mind already racing through plans. We will rebuild. We will be ready for whatever comes next. Earth will not just survive, we will thrive. The alien ships, now deep in the farthest reaches of their territory, had begun to regroup, but there was no denying the damage they had taken. The alien council had been shattered. The defeat was undeniable. Cyros, in the isolation of his war room, thought only of Earth. They had lost the capital. They had lost their pride. And the humiliation still stung. They will learn, Cyros whispered to himself. They will learn what happens when you defy us. The alien fleet, battered and broken, would need to rebuild, but Cyros knew that they wouldn't be the same. The humans had struck a blow that would be felt for generations to come. They had proven that no matter how advanced the alien empire was, humanity's strength lay in their unity and their unyielding will. But Cyros wasn't ready to give up. He was the leader of the alien empire, and he had been brought low. But it wasn't over. He would rise again. The alien empire would rise again. On Earth, Alara stood before the fleet's viewports, watching the stars. The victory had been hard fought, and though the battle was won, the war had only just begun. The galaxy would take note of Earth's strength. But Earth would also have to prove that it could defend its place in the stars. We'll be ready, she said, her voice steady as ever. They will come for us, but we will stand our ground. Earth won't fall. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't.